Great. Hello. I will make this a little bit interactive, so if I can ask everyone to take out their phone. My name's Nathan Guerra. I am Director of Innovation at AMV BBDO, and with Fishburn Hedges, we're really excited to be hosting this event on NFC. I'm particularly excited because I think NFC is a technology which I imagine probably most of you have heard of, probably know fairly well. Some of you probably know better than I do even. But it's a technology which I think has so much potential. And we will be discussing lots of things tonight, and there'll be open chance for you to ask questions. But it's a technology which I think the book is still out there in terms of who's going to win. Is it a war even? Is it a battleground? Maybe that's an answer the question for you, Claire. And I'm really excited because I think there's some phenomenal opportunities within it. Not only from us, so because the way we tend to approach any solution is, as an advertiser and an advertising agency, we go, how can we make more ads out of it? Which is kind of the least potential opportunity for NFC, but it is the way that we see the world. So can I ask quickly, who's got a smartphone? So if you can vote with your phone. If you have two phones, you can hold both of them up. I'll give you 2 points. If you have 3, then I'm sorry, you're out. All right, now who's got a phone that has NFC in it? So 2, 3. I do as well. So, yeah. Okay.
What is NFC?
The
first question from today.
Yes. A very good question. We'll come back to that. Sorry, I do have a cold, so excuse me for coughing. I guess first of all, the one thing I want to point out is NFC does stand for Near Field Communication. It is a technology which is relatively new. It is increasingly appearing in mobile phones, but it is in a relatively few number, as you've seen from the about 5 of us who put our hands up. There are lots and lots of estimates about how much money is going to be worth. Some estimates of the Yankee Group saying $1 trillion of mobile phone payments will be happening, and not just through NFC, through potentially all mobile phone payment systems by the year 2015. That's a lot of money to be moving around, and everybody wants a little bit of piece of it.
But if you also had a question about cards, so tap and wave cards, which is exactly the same technology.
Yeah.
How many people know as well? Cards that they can happen.
I don't want to be pedantic, but it's not the same technology. It's the same. It's
from a bank's
perspective.
Same bank.
From a bank's perspective, it's not the same technology.
Well, okay. So to answer your question about cards, I think they're expecting between 80 million and 120 million secure cards and secure elements, but by the end of 2012. So there's going to be a significantly higher portion of those will be cards, and we do consider them cards from most statistical perspectives I've seen. And by cards you mean something like a chip and pin, sorry, not a chip and pin, but a contactless, a tap and go kind of system. And that's one of the main ways which we're seeing NFC integrated into solutions, is actually through systems like the Barclay card. Everyone has probably seen the water slide commercial. Yes. And that is effectively a great big ad for NFC. Although nobody mentions NFC in it, nobody talks about NFC. Well, I guess which is one of the big problems, and one of the questions I have for the panel tonight is, what do we need to do to get people aware of what the opportunity is? Just a bit of a background, if I rewind back, what NFC is. It's a technology which, and primarily we're going to be talking about it tonight as built into a mobile phone. But it actually is just a really simple, see, I've got a few NFC cards with me, tags with me. So that's one. That's one of the bigger ones. The smallest one is a 30mm round tag. And these can be put on and integrated into most anything. They're working on them now to try and create them that can be sewn into clothes. And they do appear in all those contactless cards. It's a technology that's quite secure in that it only works when you're about 1 to 4 centimeters away from a device. So you've got to be really, really close to a reader for something like that to actually activate. And in mobile phones, they tend to do a couple of different things. One of them is they can act as a reader. So from the advertising perspective, I go, great, I can put it in a poster, and instead of having a QR code, someone can walk up to it and tap their phone on it and get some information. Not a lot of information, mind you, but a little bit. More than you can get into a QR code, though. And with that, I, as an advertiser, could say, well, great, I'm going to send someone off to a URL, or send them a little bit of a message, send them a link to a video or an MP3 or whatever I might want to do. I can also, between phones, actually integrate a connection. And what happens generally is it negotiates an instant connection between two phones, and then switches to either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and allows me to transmit some information back and forth. So I could play a game with you then, because I've connected with you via Bluetooth, or I could send you again a file. And then the last thing it allows you to do is really pretend to be one of these. Your phone can pretend to be a tag. Now that is useful if you want it to be a poster, but it's really, really useful if you want to be a credit card. And that's primarily what we're going to be talking about tonight, is people using their phones to be a tag, to be a mobile credit card that you can take with you anywhere you go. And so I'm really excited that I've got 3 people tonight who are significant experts, I'm sure knowing much more about it than I do. And I'm excited for these people because I do believe that in a few years we're going to be throwing our wallets away. PayPal is saying, what, 2016? We're all going to be wandering around with our wallets. Well, I've already got the pictures of my children on my phone, so I don't need my wallet for that. And I've already got, most of my contact information and everything I need. As long as I can get rid of all my credit cards and my store cards and my Nectar card and all of the other cards, which my phone, in theory, can absolutely mimic. So then what do I need a wallet for? So let me introduce the panel tonight. First of all, and sorry, this is going to be a slightly odd order because you sat in a different order than my notes here. If you could move, that'd be great. So first of all, we have Colin Swain. He's the head of digital business development for UK and Ireland Mastercard. He leads the business development team and for mobile payments and mobile and emerging payments, and works mostly with banks, retailers, and mobile operators throughout the UK. Now, second, we have Mark Fabes. He's the IT director of McDonald's UK. Correct. And you have to support roughly 8,000 contactless machines around the UK, which I believe is by far the largest installation. If anybody knows of anything remotely approaching that number, I'm more than happy to hear about it. There are roughly 70,000 in the UK, of which you apparently have the lion's share. So interesting to see and hear about how that's gone. And you support all the other IT services throughout the restaurants and locations throughout the UK. And last, we've got Claire Maslen, who's the senior market development manager for O2 Money Telefonica UK, and she leads all the mobile near field communications throughout the market. She's leading the entry. Well, I'm just reading your bio, so you might as well. Claire, why don't you start then? You can introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Claire Maslen, and I'm a market development manager within the O2 Money team at Telefonica, and I'm responsible, as Nathan was articulating, for our market development for all of our NFC and m-commerce propositions. I've been in the business for nearly 10 years, but I've been working on NFC for 5 years. Worked with Colin in the past, and we did the O2 Wallet trial in London, which was the first sort of big consumer trial of this technology.
Great. So, you each have 5 minutes. Claire, why don't you continue on? You don't have to take 5. You can talk about anything you want. I think they'd probably rather if you talked about NFC, but I'll leave the door open for you.
Yeah, so having worked on this for the last 5 years, I think it's been a hugely exciting area, and at the moment it's just relentless. If you follow any of the news feeds, anything online, everyone is talking about mobile payments and this enabling technology. For us, I think we see more of an opportunity. Payments is kind of, I hate to say it when I'm talking amongst people from the financial services sector, but payments is a utility and people expect to be able to do it, and actually they're not that fussed about how they do it. The big benefits that we see is when we pair up money and media. And I have 2 of my colleagues here from the O2 media business. And we talk, at the moment we talk to agencies, we talk to brands, we talk to retailers about the power of being able to deliver targeted campaigns to someone's mobile, drive footfall into store. If they are a retailer that has a high street presence and an online presence, you can start to provide that multi-channel support. And then be able to close that transaction loop by enabling the payment, which is, as I say, the kind of utility bit to it. From our customer insight and our trials, everyone loves this, everyone wants it. People are saying, why isn't it happening? And I think we've probably all got different views as to why it hasn't happened yet. But what I would say is do not underestimate the complexity of this. It is not as simple as just getting your phone to pretend that it's a card. There are many different formats coming out. The market has been confused around the different standards. Do we go with a SIM? Do we go with something on the handset? Do we go with a sticker or a little plug-in that you stick on the end of your iPhone? So there's been a lot of noise. We need to quieten that down and hopefully get to everything, stick to our path and our strategy of getting this onto the SIM, which has numerous benefits for the consumer.
Cool, I've got lots of questions, but I'll move on. Colin?
So yeah, Colin Swain, so I work in Mastercard as Head of Digital Business Development, but as Claire said previously, I was in Barclaycard as Head of Mobile, which is where Claire and I met 5 years ago to launch an NFC trial. So I think first of all, whether you know what NFC is or not, it's been around for quite a long time. It's not new technology, but some of the standards and the protocols have been emerging over that time frame. I think carrying on from Claire's point, we've had quite a few false dawns around NFC. If you look at the analyst reports back in 2007, by now probably everyone should be using NFC for most of their transactions. And that obviously hasn't happened yet. I think the reason that hasn't happened in the UK is, if you look back 2007, contactless acceptance wasn't there. There was no hero brands, there was no places for consumers to use contactless payments. There were no real devices. For the O2 Wallet trial, we were asking people to hand in, was it their iPhones? It probably was in 2008. It was their iPhone for a Nokia clamshell phone that was 3 years old at that point. And lastly, there was no real global proof points. There was nothing to say why this should be a success, and therefore the players involved weren't really interested. If we look at it now, we are starting to get acceptance. Retailers such as McDonald's or restaurants such as McDonald's are picking up contactless and seeing a huge amount of traffic coming through. We are seeing more and more devices coming on stream from a range of different manufacturers, and there are global proof points. You look at Google Wallet in the US, which has launched this year, Barclaycard and Everything Everywhere in the UK, and Turkcell in Turkey. There is a number of commercial launches in market today, and that will only continue going into 2012. Just picking up on Claire's other point about payments, absolutely agree. Payment is a hygiene factor in NFC, but that makes it exceptionally important, because if it doesn't work, and it doesn't work well, then NFC won't work.
Cool, great. And Mark?
So, little bit about McDonald's. 1,200 restaurants in the UK, 1,280 if you include the Republic of Ireland. We implemented contactless in May of this year, and the main driver around that was we were replacing our payment platform, but at the same time we were looking to future-proof our payment platform. McDonald's were a late adopter of cashless in the UK. We only started accepting credit and debit cards in 2007, but what we've seen is a steady increase up to about 30% of our transactions. So we're still taking sort of 70% cash, but we're taking 30% on cards. So when we looked at replacing our payment platform, it was really determining, okay, so let's think about what's going to happen in the future. Let's think about the consumer, the customer, how they're going to want to interact with us going forward. And whether it's through different order initiation points that we set up within the restaurant, or it's using their smart devices and mobile apps, we knew that we're going to have to try and accommodate that in the future. So part of the journey onto contactless was, it was a very short step for us to go from a new payment platform to then make ourselves completely contactless enabled. So we replaced all of our PIN pads, and as we alluded to earlier, it's 8,000 PIN pads that we rolled out over the first 3 months of this year, and then we switched contactless on in May the 25th actually of this year. So over the last 6 months, what we've seen is an increasing number of contactless transactions going through. Now, we serve 2.5 million people a day, and that's increased 8% year on year. So it does mean that virtually everyone in this room is going to visit McDonald's 15 times this year. Now I know I'm not going to. And I would guess a number of you won't. So there's a lot of people out there that are visiting more than 15 times. But the point is, the more people that visit the restaurant, it's all about the customer experience. We want to make sure we're serving that customer as quickly as possible. And one of those pinch points is around payment. So by introducing new payment platform and contactless, actually what we've seen is an average payment process lasting about 7 seconds, going down to somewhere between 1 and 2 seconds, with an average online authorization of 0.6 seconds. So if you've used the payment process in McDonald's, and particularly contactless, you'll see it's incredibly quick. You know, what I will say in terms of the sort of stats and the sort of stats that we're seeing, 6 months, we just hit our millionth contactless transaction. So we've seen a significant increase month on month, and indeed between October and September we saw our contactless transaction rates go up by a further 13%. So we know that people are using contactless. Every single McDonald's restaurant in the UK has taken at least one contactless transaction, even the restaurant on the Isle of Man. So
what's that as a percentage of your total payments by cards at the moment?
it's about just hovering between 2 and 3%. But it has increased from 0, and it is increasing every month. So we are seeing an increase in uptake for sure.
Cool.
Sorry. Was that percentage of total payments or percentage of
Card payments.
Total card payments.
Excellent. All right. Well, I have some questions. So, I was recently in Amsterdam, and I introduced them, a number of people there, to the concept of NFC. And the terrified question I got was, and the most first question I get anytime I go anywhere is, great. So I put all my credit cards on my phone. What happens when I lose my phone? So the open question to all of you is, what happens when I lose my phone?
Shall I take it?
You go first.
So it's always the first question we get asked. I think a lot of it is around the perceived security and perceived safety. We need to make sure our messaging is really clear. If a customer has a mobile and the applications are stored on the SIM, we as an operator are able to communicate with that over the air, kill the SIM, therefore killing all of those applications. And then someone says, well, what happens if it's in the middle of the night and I don't have a means to phone one of your stores, or, you know, I mean, so it goes on. So there has to be a level of pragmatism. If you lose your wallet at the moment and you lose £50 cash, that's gone.
Right.
No one is going to replace that. If you have a pot of stored value funds, depending on the relationship that your operator has with the financial provider, chances are that money will be replenished.
Right.
So actually, you've got that side of it. You've also got the fact that it's one phone call to kill a SIM rather than 10 phone calls to 10 different financial providers that you may carry cards in your physical wallet. So I think there is one message that we have to get across around the perception of security.
Sure.
People shouldn't be any more vulnerable by carrying this. And then the other side is that we have processes in place to ensure that they're protected and the replenishment is quicker.
So I guess the biggest difference being that I might not carry all my credit cards with me. I might carry all of them in my phone. You know, does that mean that we should still have credit cards at home just in case something happens, or do you literally anticipate a world where everything goes mobile?
So I think this strap line around NFC of replacing my wallet is a very nice strap line. It's a very nice thing to put out at conferences. It gets the, it gets the headlines. Do I perceive that that's the largest consumer benefits around mobile payments or mobile NFC? No. I think it's about rewarding your consumers more than they are today, having more of a relationship and a discussion with them via a always online mobile device, and rewarding them more. So replacing the wallet outright, it's fantastic from a convenience point of view. Do I think it's the largest benefit? Probably not.
Okay. And Mark, then I guess the flip side of that question is fraud. Are you seeing any significantly higher levels of fraud with contactless payment, or is that a concern of yours, moving into a world of no wallets?
No, I don't think it's a concern. I think the way that NFC and contactless cards are set up, there are a certain number of transactions that take place before you're forced to go online and key a PIN number in. if you immediately report your card stolen, the banks will take the liability anyway. And you can vary, it varies the number, whether it's after 3 transactions you're forced to go online with a PIN or up to 9. Yeah, there's been lots of talk about that particular transmission between the device and the NFC reader itself, but it's, as you said, it's within 4 centimetres, so actually to try and intercept that particular signal is quite a difficult thing to do. And as far as the overall payment platform, from our perspective, we encrypt from PIN pad to bank, so we do all we can to ensure that we are as PCI compliant around that. But it's not something that I have to say we have had any feedback from our customers around concerns around NFC security. They just see this as a fantastic way to pay, and actually it's quite a novelty, and it's quite exciting both for the customer and our crew.
Okay. I guess I alluded to it earlier. One of the biggest challenges is what is NFC. So I'll ask you guys now. I did some quant on Monday night. Some really dirty stuff, and I surveyed.
It's in Amsterdam.
It was very dirty. No. I asked 100 smartphone users in the UK if they do you know what NFC is? What percentage do you think said yes?
I would assume it's going to be less than 10.
Yeah, I would say less than 10%.
Oh, so I asked 100 people that 15 knew what it was.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take that.
And then I found a survey that said that, and again, it was hardly again smartphone users in the States. Should my phone be my credit card? 78% of Americans saying no. So what are we going to do? What needs to happen to get both that awareness level up, or do we need to make people aware of NFC?
So I think NFC is a technology. So the reason consumers don't know about it is because there's no application of that technology, really. If you look, in most markets, how can you use NFC? Well, you can't really, apart from those global proof points which have only been around for 3 or 4 months. So until there's actually an application of it, they're not going to know what NFC is. And even when there is an application of it, they may just say, yes, I use my mobile phone for payment or rewards or offers. They may not know the underlying technology. It's just people in this room and outside who may know that. On the credit card, I think it goes back to Claire's point about perceived security versus actual security. So one of the things which is quite clear with consumers is you can say as much as you want about it's got a PIN on it, there's a lot of cryptography behind the scenes, it's all very secure. They will not trust that, or not all consumers will trust that fully. So there's a lot you can do around control, around the way you manage accounts to help them get used to mobile payments before thinking about things like, is this my replacement for a credit card?
So does anyone think we need an NFC alliance to do advertising for NFC? Is that what we need? Is that clear? Are you guys just going to go out with a mobile wallet? Is that the solution?
Yeah, I mean, we would never talk to our customers about NFC.
Okay.
So you won't walk into an O2 store and pick an NFC phone. You'll walk into an O2 store, hopefully, and pick a phone that has a wallet on it,
Right.
a mobile wallet. So I don't think we should talk to customers about the technology.
Okay.
We don't need to know about it.
Okay. Will you have a brand name for the mobile wallet, you think? Will there be a
O2 wallet.
Will there be O2 wallet? Amazing. We've got some questions.
It took years to work with that, I'd tell you.
Yeah. Crack team. Go ahead, right here.
No, I was going to say, I've got one of the new BlackBerry Bold type and touch things, so it does have NFC.
Yep.
And I actually rang O2, they're my service provider, and I said, I want to find out more. How do I use this? How do I link my bank to it? And I got this done. What
that's
are you
it.
talking about?
Yeah.
And then I rang BlackBerry and Research in Motion, and I asked the same questions, and they were like, So I was, as as a customer, I was left totally sort of defunct and devoid of any knowledge. Where do you go from here? What do you do?
So our decision to start ranging handsets with the technology on it, for probably the last 18 months, we've been, shall we, shan't we? Shall we wait until we're ready for commercial services before we start seeding the market with handsets? And we've reached the conclusion that now the handsets that are coming along would merit being in our portfolio regardless of whether they've got NFC on them. So the benefit that it does give us is that when the O2 wallet is ready, we will already have an installed base of users. And I mean, that particular BlackBerry device, we sold 30,000 units within a matter of weeks. So, you know, these are good devices that are standing up in their own right. Prior to this point, the devices, as Colin said, when we did the trials, you know, we were taking people's smartphones off them and giving them these incredibly basic handsets. We would never have ranged them. So now it is the point that we can range them, but we have to then retrospectively do some education around the proposition, not about the technology, but about the proposition.
So you will then come to me and explain how
absolutely.
you link up to the bank.
So we
and
know,
how it functions.
that's it, so we know how many devices are out there. Obviously we know what device is in the market, and we can immediately communicate to those people and say, we now have an O2 wallet. And these are that's it.
And it's very similar strategy to Google in the US. So Google already had the Nexus S handset in market with hundreds of thousands of consumers, and it was an overnight download as part of a service pack that they actually put the Google Wallet onto those consumers' handsets, and then they started marketing it. It's because of the strength of the handset they can do that.
And is Google Wallet, sorry for my naivety, coming over here, or is it here, or...?
That's a question it's for Google, probably.
I suspect it will come, but it's certainly not here yet. Sorry, we have one other question over there first, and then we'll kind of...
yeah, just quickly on the security agenda, I wonder if there's sort of a demographic challenge, because it's taken me till this year to convince my dad that iTunes aren't evil. My point being that I would imagine that young people are naturally going to be more receptive and less fearful about security concerns, and what challenges that brings to you, because perhaps these young people might not be as big as spenders, but they're likely to be more receptive to the technology, and how you go about sort of bridging a generational gap on this kind of thing.
So some of the consumer research that I've been involved with has actually come up with quite interesting results, which are actually the teen population aren't the core segment always for this type of technology. The reason is they're not used to electronic payments at all. They're not used to mobile payments either, they're used to cash. So there's kind of a demographic between 20 and 30 where they are early adopters, they like new technology and they like electronic payments, who are getting to grips and understand the concept. But you're absolutely right, targeting and segmentation on this is key. It's you know, there's nothing new about this, it's your normal product life cycle, and who you segment and target first is critical.
I was just interested in the panel's views on, a lot of the discussion so far has been on proximity payments, and there's remote payments, and I can see how for McDonald's proximity is key. Mm-hmm. Perhaps for Mastercard or O2 it's not. And I'm just interested in the panel's views on, one, the trade-off between the value of proximity versus remote, and also the panel's views on how distinct you think the UK is relative to what's happening in other markets, given we don't have consistency across different markets.
I mean, if I talk from a McDonald's perspective, I mean, we've got restaurants in 119 countries, and what I'm seeing is there are different initiatives in each country. So we've already got one country that's starting to look at mobile payment, not using NFC, but using a web-based payment platform. So it's the web order, if you like. It's the web payment, and then checking in when you come into a restaurant and downloading that information around order and payment. I think from a UK perspective, if I look at what other retailers are doing, you know, I think it's horses for courses in terms of absolutely what's right for us is proximity. You know, NFC is a great technology for us going forward, because we'll use it to check customers in. When we go to web ordering, we'll allow them to effectively come along with their device. Either they will have set the order up in the restaurant, or they will have done it outside, and effectively check in, download it, bang, it's in the kitchen, and they then pay for it at the same time. But I know that other retailers are looking at other ways of doing it. Pizza Express, obviously Starbucks, in terms of they've gone their own route with their particular app. I think it's what works for that customer experience and that customer journey at a particular brand or retailer.
From a Mastercard perspective, I mean, we are obviously globally doing a lot around remote payments. Actually, NFC is a really interesting foundation for remote payments as well. And the reason for that is actually, as well as the NFC component, you are putting a secure, protected area into a handset which identifies a person, which is something that doesn't exist today with remote payments. So actually, as well as NFC, there's an opportunity there at some point in the future to make very quick and very secure transactions via a mobile device for remote payments using a secure area within that handset. And on top of that, Mastercard has actually announced a partnership with Intel, where we're looking to put similar technology into an Intel motherboard, so you can essentially do more secure remote payments for PC as well.
No, other than to say, obviously we deal with handset vendors, but we also talk a lot to other hardware providers. And most of them that are coming up with tablets and laptops are all looking at embedding this technology. So you could envisage something in the future where you tap your phone against your laptop to offer that authentication and security.
So one of the other questions which I have coming out of that is, again, you've got ISIS in the States, you've got all sorts of different groups all over Europe. What happens when I go out of the UK? Can I use my contactless card over there? Do you have to negotiate a deal with every single conglomerate? And are we going to see a conglomerate in the UK, Claire?
That wasn't a pointed question at all, was it?
Okay, so I guess two things. One, at the end of the O2 wallet trial, we went out to all of the operators and said that we needed to work together on this to ensure that the market doesn't end up even more fragmented.
Sure.
And we formed the UK Mobile Contactless Forum, which has been active now for sort of 3 years, I suppose. And in that forum, we discuss user experience, and we go out to different industry sectors and talk to them about the benefits of mobile. There has, of course, been the announcement regarding the proposed joint venture, which is subject to merger clearance and has got to go in front of the European Commission. So on that particular topic, not much to say really, because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
However, if it does get clearance, there are massive consumer benefits and also benefits to service providers, in that there will be this kind of one-stop shop for people to be able to reach consumers, any of the mobile operators that are engaged in it, their customers. In terms of the cross-border piece, you know, obviously O2 is part of Telefonica.
Sure.
We operate in many of the different regions, and we are part of the GSMA. And the GSMA has recently announced that they've now got 45 operators on board, and those 45 operators, all working to the same standards, represents, I think it's 3.6 billion mobile subscribers, which is 61% of the mobile base in the world. So everyone knows that you have to get that kind of cross-border piece. It's not there yet, but I think that it is something that all of the different territories are working on.
Right. And does it make a difference for you?
In terms of the payments component, Mastercard is a global acceptance hub. So the Google Wallet can be used in the UK as much as it can in the US.
Right. And anyone else for another question? Or before I can go on and on, but I'm sure you could. With it.
Is there a time when O2 could itself become a bank? And is there a time that, because you have all this information about customer behaviour and consumer insight, that do you have any insight telling you where customers will start to get a bit freaked out about the promotions and the interaction you have with them?
Yeah. First point, will we ever become a bank? No, we won't. We have applied, or we've announced our intent to apply for an e-money licence. That does not make us a bank, but it gives us certain jurisdiction over what we can do with consumers' funds. So we have a prepaid product, the O2 money cards that were launched a couple of years ago. They're hugely popular with our younger base. But those funds, that was with a partner relationship, and those funds were held, and there was only so much that we could kind of do with that. So the e-money licence will allow us to have more scope over how we shape financial propositions. Second part of the question was?
about insight, where you
Insight, yeah. So our media business, O2 Media, which is kind of a sister business to O2 Money, we have really three main areas in there, and the first proposition was O2 More, and that's for customers to opt in to receive campaigns. And the latest figures are 10 million customers. Yeah, so 10 million, which is nearly 50% of O2's base, have opted in to say, yeah, O2, you can serve me offers on behalf of these brands. And we get asked about privacy a lot and spamming customers, and people get concerned about having too many messages sent to them. Through O2 More, it's 1 message a day. I'm looking to these guys for confirmation all the time. It's 1 message a day, and for us, we have a vested interest in making sure that those offers we serve are correct and relevant to that customer. If a customer opts out of O2 More, actually they opt out of receiving anything from O2. So we shoot ourselves in the foot for being able to contact our customers about our own services. So I think opt-in is the key. And then it's about building the preferences and the database around that so that we can really serve stuff that is relevant.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, I think here, what an interesting point. There seems to be this assumption that I have an NFC phone, I'm going to be able to do payments with it. But I think there's a real lack of, well, a real issue in the consumer's mind, and probably a lot of people in this room as well, is, Colin will attest, just how difficult payments are. So is there an issue that we are making it too difficult to put payments on phones because we're going through this huge testing process, huge accreditation process? Every phone has to be validated by Mastercard or Visa to meet AMV standards. In theory, every version of the upgrade should also go through that phone. Is there a problem that it's taken so long because we've made it too hard, or it needs to be hard because it's so fraught with danger?
There's a few questions in there. So I think on the certification and accreditation side, I think the schemes have done a lot over the last few years to try and shorten that time period down, because there's a full understanding that unlike versions of cards, you cannot spend months testing and accrediting a mobile device. So that is an area we're working on, and that is an area that the mobile team within Mastercard will continue to work on. I think your first question about how difficult payments are actually is as much about how difficult banking systems are and how they've been built. If you look at most issuing systems or bank systems, they are batch-orientated legacy systems. You are asking them to connect into a real-time, event-driven, over-the-air device, which is a mobile. That is actually where the complexity is. And so when you go to NFC conferences or contactless conferences and they talk about mobile applications, and they talk about things like trusted service managers and over-the-air provisioning, it's new, but it's understood now. I think the challenge is more enabling legacy systems within payment organisations and banks to actually connect into that, because that is not a small piece of work.
Cool. Any other questions from the room?
Well, it's actually more a comment than a question, because I'm quite surprised that Claire, as you said, the feedback from customers was very positive around contactless payments. Well, I should say I'm from which the Consumers Association. We did some research on contactless cards for the London Assembly. And our findings were, I mean, yes, people are positive about it, interested, but I would say it's at most lukewarm, because there are many concerns, and I think it isn't really being properly addressed in this discussion, that people have a lot of concerns around things like, do I accidentally slip into my overdraft? Or what about things such as you do not receive a receipt by default? And people don't know about those things, and I think there is no independent voice informing people about the pros and cons of contactless payments. So, yeah.
How does that play against the Oyster card, for example, or the Octopus card in Hong Kong? Because most people in this room that use transport.
Yeah, the Octopus card in Hong Kong, though, you use it for different things, right? You can use it as a payment card.
That's exactly the point.
And the Oyster card is different because you use it in a closed loop system. So, I mean,
why would people be concerned when they're
so,
making
so I think there's a big consumer point around frequency and understanding here. If you are a contactless card user and you use it once a week, and sometimes the experience outside of McDonald's is not always perfect, you are not going to be overly, you're not going to be a champion for contactless. And I think that's understood. I think also, it's, again, a lot of research has been done around this, and a lot of thought about the experience for contactless. And one of the key things that comes back is actually the payments industry is thinking about this too much. The payments industry kind of very much says, oh, we need to think through the full experience. And the point that came back was, if you remember a contactless transaction, that's not a good thing, because it tells you it was not a good transaction. Because actually you should just do it and it happens and it's hygiene. So doing research around contactless specifically, it's I guess it may only go one way, because if it was a good experience, it's just fine, it works.
Yeah, I guess
if it's a bad experience,
you're never going to reach all consumers, because some consumers will just never use it because of reasons such as budgeting. And they're just, I mean, already you have so many problems getting people to pay by direct debit, people on low, I'm talking about people that are vulnerable and on low income. And also I don't think you can compare it to Oyster, because you top up an Oyster, you don't just pay out of your account.
And I think this is, this is one of the models that we launched the prepaid cards for exactly that, because people do like to jam jar, they like to allocate certain amounts of money for certain activities. So if you are thinking of your coffee and your newspaper, your cash, and this is the other thing, people do kind of go, oh my god, I don't want my credit card on my phone. Actually, you're never really going to go out and buy, I don't know, a new bed or a fridge on your phone, certainly not in the foreseeable future. This is about low value spend. And for those groups, there are certainly from financial inclusion perspective, we know that consumers may not have bank accounts, but they've got mobile phones. So actually, if they can allocate some of their spend just in that pot, which is protected and wrapped up, and it is for their low value transactions, it's not about exposing them to their overdraft or credit debt, credit card debt.
So you see a convergence of your prepaid card, which is probably the most successful in the market, probably true, and your prepaid mobile telephones, which are 50-70% of the market.
Yeah, so again, another myth, this isn't about us combining airtime bills and store value funds. So, of course, our prepaid, mobile prepaid customers are perfect for a prepaid financial product, that's it. But other, our contract customers will be just as likely to take a prepaid.
So you don't see a convergence of the two?
There won't be a convergence, no, because from a regulatory perspective, we are very, very restricted on what we can use airtime funds for.
Sure.
So it has to be digital services that are consumed within the mobile. So it's there are a lot of people saying, well, you could just pay, wouldn't it be great if you could pay for your parking and that appear on your mobile phone bill?
So that's my point. My point would be, so you have the card, which I guess isn't contactless at the moment, the prepaid card that you put out to the market. Do you see that card converging onto a tag on a telephone or a mobile wallet on a telephone? Because that would seem to be an obvious progression.
Yeah, so the mobile wallet, the O2 wallet, will host a number of services, and one of those services could be the prepaid money cards.
Okay. I just want to quickly go back to the point around control and budgeting. Because I think one of the other examples, which is a UK example, if you look at the Barclaycard application, which they've launched with Orange, this is a credit card brand that has built essentially a pocket money account for mobile payments that allows customers to load money in, so control everyday spend. Every time you tap to pay with a mobile device, you're told how much you've just spent and what you've got left. And so actually, for an organisation like Barclaycard, which has traditionally been credit, to move into a role where there's a service that actually does a lot of budgeting and control, shows how mobile payments could be used.
Could I ask a question?
Yep.
It seems to me that the whole thing seems eventually to be going to converge into one bank one kind of mobile phone, one credit accreditation. So Expedia, Barclaycard and O2, they're going to be the only people you can use. So in 10 years down the line, there's going to be nobody else. And if you don't get part of that, my friend here at Barclaycard, John,
I'm happy with that.
then where is the diversification? Where is the brand advantage? Where is the USP going to come through with any of this? And are we all going to be stuck with one kind of credit rating that will damn us for the rest of our lives, or allow us to live in heaven for the rest of our lives?
So will there be a winner? A mobile wallet to win to rule them all?
I don't think so.
No. Where indeed is going to be the competition? Why should I have more than one credit card? Why should I have more than anything if it's always going to converge into one?
So from our perspective, the O2 wallet, and this is one area that you get asked, will there be more than one wallet in the market? Yes, there will. How will you differentiate if there is this single standard, this single platform that everything interacts through? How do you get differentiation? Differentiation for us is about partnering with a whole host of financial providers. As an operator, we can't dictate to who someone can or does or doesn't have a financial relationship with. It's then about providing the advertising angle as well. And that, I think, is where the differentiation will come. The offers and loyalty piece, the vouchers and coupons, all of that, if we have relationships with various brands and retailers, and other mobile operators will have different relationships with different brands and retailers. So that, I think, is where the differentiation will come.
So, will Mastercard be in every wallet? Will it have its own wallet?
We won't have our own wallet. So Mastercard, we are a B2B payments technology company. So if the wallet is accredited, if it's secure, and if it's supported by an issuer, then we will support it. And we see mobile payments in its totality actually as a platform for innovation. So I do think actually mobile payments will allow new entrants to come in. I think we are in some ways opening the door to some of the digital payment players that are out there today to go into the bricks and mortar environment. And that's not a bad thing. I think it's actually quite good to think about this as a way for new players to enter the market and bring new services to consumers. I see a wallet just as it's like an app store. It's an innovation store where actually new services will come on board.
So, Jason.
Can I ask a question specifically to Mark, which is, we've heard about the sort of speed benefit of, saving 5 seconds or so on a transaction. What other benefits have you seen from contactless? And specifically I'm asking, particularly, if you're not in the retailing business or the banking business, you think that cash is, free, but actually the handling of cash is quite expensive, and also is there a difference between the fraud issues? And I know I'm sitting next to somebody from the Bank of England, so I shouldn't say that, but there are some fake notes out there, not many obviously. No.
So I think if you're talking about NFC in terms of the technology, is that what you were talking about, Jason? Yeah. I think where we see it again in terms of that technology, we've started on the payment route, the contactless payment. We see it as a way of almost exchanging data with the customer at given points during that customer journey. So we've talked about the potential to check into a restaurant. We're looking at kiosks, we're trialling handheld order takers that we're going to use in the restaurant, and all of those need to have contactless capability to ensure that we maintain the customer experience and the journey. But where we're looking going forward is actually, does NFC start to overtake QR codes? So a way of actually getting our customers to look at some of our brand and our trust stories about our product. That's a great way of encouraging that. And of course then you've got NFC tags, which eventually become another way of exchanging data. going back to the mobile wallet and what we see, I mean, we're not in the position of giving vouchers out to mobile wallets. I get approached virtually every other week about, are we going to hook up with you guys? Will we do this? We haven't really worked out what that value exchange is for us in terms of vouchering the use of mobile wallets. But ultimately, there's going to be some differentiation there in terms of various brands and how you use that. I don't know if that answers your question.
We talked about security quite a bit. Is there any sort of development thinking going on about building biometrics into the security, in the sense of using the camera to do face recognition or thumbprints or some sort of Blade Runner type thing?
Probably sure there is some in Mastercard too. It's not something that is kind of, I guess, what we're looking at in the next 3 years or so. And I guess the reason for that is predominantly we don't know whether the devices can actually give that sort of security on the biometrics. So I know that a lot of the time fingerprint recognition, well, can the actual touch screen actually recognise those sort of things, for example? I think the other thing is, obviously, as a payments network, we require the issuer or the bank or the payment provider to actually support that as well, and it's quite a large undertaking.
Yeah, just one quick question. We've talked a lot about the technologies and some of the security-related issues and some of the things you can do with the technology in terms of promotions and what have you. But I'm kind of curious as to see who you think it is actually owns the end relationship with the customer. I was fascinated by the earlier question from someone who's just got a new BlackBerry with a digital wallet and phoned the network, then phoned the manufacturer, but didn't phone her bank or the credit card company. One of the big barriers, I think, to entry is going to be convincing the consumer that there is someone who takes a lead in managing these issues. So who do you think it's going to be?
Wikipedia.
Will it be the network? Will it be the card company rather than the issuer, the bank? Or will it be the retailer?
So I think Colin probably recalls when we first set off on this journey, the first debate was around the standards and was it going to be handset, was it going to be stickers and plugins. Second debate was whose wallet was it going to be? Yeah. Was it going to be the bank's wallet or was it going to be an operator's wallet? And we asked consumers and they said, well, if it's on my mobile, the first person I'm going to call is my mobile operator.
Paradoxically, Nathan's American survey says nearly 80% of the Americans don't want it to be the operator.
No, they don't want it to be on the phone at all.
They don't want it to be
To be clear, they reject the entire thing.
So there's 80% who are even unhappy with it on the phone, irrespective of the network.
Yeah.
But the lady in the audience, she said that she purchased the device from O2 and she phoned O2 and then she phoned RIM, and that's actually really progressive because our consumers don't do that. They phone us. They don't moan about their Nokia device. They tend to moan about their O2 device. So I think I'm sure you'll get different answers from different people, but for us we certainly think that we have a value to offer in providing that customer service and that one point of contact for a customer.
I mean, the only thing I'd add is banks are doing this today. Many banks have mobile banking applications which are feature rich and can go wrong. And some of them, if they do get lost or stolen. And so it's not, I guess it is a small step to move up to payments, but whether it's clear or not, banks do already do this on mobile devices in some way and offer services through those devices.
It's also worth mentioning that the only current offer in the UK is the Barclaycard Orange offering. You ring the operator. So whether they own the relationship or not, if you lose your phone or you have a problem, you ring Orange, and Orange have now got links into Barclaycard to kill the credit card.
And there's warm handoffs as well if they phone Barclaycard first.
Oh, right there.
Question based on the deal signed with between O2 Money and John Lewis a couple of weeks ago. That comes out that in terms of over-the-air capabilities, closing the loop on bandwidth, how important does the panel think Wi-Fi in retail stores and 4G rollouts are going to be to this, to its development and its adoption? The second question I had was about security, because someone alluded to how long it's going to take to validate NFC-capable phones and chipsets and so on. And the one issue area I don't know if you've already touched on is the PCI element here, and how the PCI Council are already starting to develop ways of assessing and certifying mobile apps and mobile wallets, and whether or not that's also going to add another tranche of time to getting these things rolled out and adopted quickly.
Okay, so the first thing the deal was O2 Media and House of Fraser. And I mean it's fantastic. That as a case study for us, I think that's going to be a great opportunity. So, you know, as an O2 customer, you can walk into a House of Fraser store, you get free Wi-Fi, your landing page serves you offers and things that are timely and relevant because you're in the premises where you can redeem them. So I think that's a fantastic case study, and hopefully one that we will replicate with other retailers. In terms of the PCI, I guess the first part was around the need for coverage in building.
Yes, so there's two-part question on the connectivity and then the security as far as the apps are concerned.
Yeah. So I mean the connectivity, obviously, if you think about our core business, we talk a lot tonight about media and money, which are new businesses for us. Our core business is around connectivity. That's what we do. We connect customers. We connect 23 million customers to the people and things that matter to them over their mobile phones. Wi-Fi is another core business for us, really. It's in terms of organisationally, it's a new business, but actually, if you think about it, it is a core business for us. So we know that stuff, and we're just able to then exploit it and use it with the new businesses. Second point of the question was the PCI piece, which is probably one that I'm not going to get into because I can't honestly say that I understand too much about it, so I'd rather not.
And neither can I. I would love to be able to, but I would be scratching on.
At least can you say if it's something that you're having to watch and if it's going to affect your rollout schedule?
Yeah, I mean absolutely, and our security guys and our mobile guys will not be allowing things to go out the door unless they are fully secure in that way, and it's something we could pick up on if you want to.
And I know that also it is a driver for some of the replacement terminals in some retailers, because obviously there is a level of PCI compliancy that's coming along, and that will drive the replacement, sometimes early replacement of readers and point of sale terminals. And what we want is those point of sale terminals to be replaced with contactless as soon as possible. So if the PCI piece does, brings that forward, then that's great.
Great. I think we should call them in the evening. I've got lots more questions, but and I'm sure they will stick around for a few minutes if you have any additional questions. Thank you all very much for coming. I hope it was interesting. I certainly was educational for me. And have a good evening. Give the panel a applause.